Right, so let's jump into this deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about Harry Nilsson's 1971 animated film, The Point.
Mm.
We've got this really fascinating article by Mandy Leach, and it digs into like all these hidden meanings and depths in the film and how they're still like so relevant even today, you know?
Hmm.
Like you might think, oh, a kid's movie, you know. How deep could it be? But trust me, this one goes way deeper than just pointy hats and stuff.
Yeah, what's so interesting is that The Point, like, it didn't even start as a film. It started as a concept album, and then it was a comic and a film and even a stage play. Harry Nilsson was really a multi-talented guy.
Yeah.
And the different narrators across all the different versions. Dustin Hoffman, Ringo Starr, Alan Thicke. It's crazy.
That's a pretty impressive list. So, okay, the article compares The Point to another classic, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And that got me thinking. They both have these main characters who are different and, you know, kind of ostracized because of it. But their endings are like completely different. Rudolph ends up getting accepted because his difference becomes useful. But Oblio actually like challenges the whole system. What do you think about that? Which ending do you think is more powerful?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it really gets to the core of like what this film is about conformity and individuality. It takes place in the land of point, where everything and everyone has to have a point. But like the article points out, this isn't just about pointy hats. It's really about blindly following rules and authority, just because that's how it's always been done.
Right. And then you've got the Count,
Yeah.
the villain. He's totally about power and control, like using the law to enforce conformity and punish anyone who's different. Leach describes him so well in the article. It's kind of scary how much he reminds me of some people in power today.
Yeah.
Do you see any parallels?
Or for sure. Especially when you think about Oblio being banished to the pointless forest. You would think that it would be this like bleak, empty place. But it's actually full of all these interesting characters, and they all have like different perspectives on what it even means to have a point. It's where Oblio really starts to question everything he thought he knew.
Right. And one of the most powerful moments, I think, in the film is that song, Think About Your Troubles. Leach points out that it deals with like some pretty heavy stuff for a so-called children's film, like life and death and sadness. It's a song that really makes you think. It's no wonder that the band Belly covered it in the 90s.
Yeah, Think About Your Troubles has like this really universal quality to it. It speaks to like the human experience. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. And when Oblio goes back to the Pointed Village, it's a real turning point. He doesn't try to change or fit in or anything. He just shows up as himself. And that alone is what starts to shake things up, which is so different from what happens with Rudolph. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's a powerful contrast. And visually, the climax of the film, when all the points disappear, is stunning. It's like watching this whole rigid system just crumble before your eyes. It really makes you wonder what points we blindly accept in our own lives that we should maybe be questioning a bit more.
What do you think?
Oh, there's so many. Like just in the news today.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go on and on, but maybe we should save that for later. I don't want to get too off track.
Good idea.
So
where were we?
So we were talking about...
Oh, yeah, Oblio returning to the village.
Right. And how just him being there starts to change things.
Right. And Kai-hook. I think that's a good place to stop for now.
Okay.
We can pick up there next time.
Sounds good to me.
It really is a powerful image, those points just vanishing. It's like the movie is saying that even things we think are like absolute and unchangeable can disappear if we start to like question them.
Yeah.
And that gets to like the heart of what the article is saying about the danger of mistaking symbols for reality.
Right. Like we get caught up in how things look, the symbols, and we forget to look deeper. The point really pushes us to question those assumptions and like embrace being different, to think for ourselves instead of just going along with everything.
And the film manages to do all this in such a clever and like engaging way. I mean, think about it. The story's been told through music and animation, comics, even live action. That really says something about like its lasting power.
Totally. And Leach connects the film to what was going on in the world. Like when it came out in the late 60s, early 70s, people were really starting to question authority and like societal norms.
Yeah, exactly. It was the era of the countercultural movement, huge social change happening. But you know what? Even though that was a specific moment in history, the themes of The Point are like totally timeless. The struggle against conformity, the search for meaning, we all deal with that stuff.
For sure. And the film reminds us that it's often the outsiders, the ones who challenge the status quo, who help us see things in new ways, like Oblio. They make us look at our own biases and assumptions.
It's like that line from the rock man in The Pointless Forest. Hey man, you don't have to have a point to have a point. It's such a simple statement, but it really gets you thinking, you know? Value and meaning aren't always found in like the obvious or conventional stuff.
Yeah,
Oh.
that line has always stuck with me. It's so good. And it also shows like the film's sense of humor. It's not just this heavy message movie. It's witty and playful and full of these memorable characters.
Yeah, it strikes that perfect balance between entertainment and social commentary. It doesn't preach at you, it just invites you to think about these ideas through this like captivating story. So what are like your main takeaways so far from this deep dive? What points are resonating with you?
Well, I think the Rudolph comparison is really striking. It shows how often we reward conformity, even when it comes at the expense of individuality. And the hook out, he's like this larger-than-life representation of all these forces that try to keep us in line. It's kind of unsettling how relevant that feels today.
Yeah, it is. But that feeling of being unsettled can be what pushes us to change. If we recognize those forces, both inside ourselves and in the world, we can start to push back. The film is an invitation to question things, to explore and to embrace the things that make us unique.
I totally agree. I think what makes the point so powerful is that it doesn't give you easy answers. It leaves you with questions and a sense of wonder and possibility.
Exactly. It's like it sparks a conversation, both within ourselves and with other people.
Yeah.
It challenges us to think about the points that we hold dear, the assumptions we have about the world, and whether those points are actually serving us or holding us back.
You know, it just occurred to me that the pointless forest, despite its name, is actually full of points. It's just that those points are different and unconventional, maybe even a little strange. But they're valid nonetheless.
That's a great point. It speaks to the idea that sometimes we have to go outside of our comfort zones, outside of what's familiar and accepted, to really find our own point.
And maybe help other people find theirs along the way. It's like when Oblio returns to the pointed village, just being himself, and it causes this ripple effect of change. It's a powerful reminder that even one person can make a difference. Makes you wonder, you know, what would the pointed village have been like if Oblio had never left? Like, what if he had just conformed and went along with everyone else? It's like that saying, the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. But what if that nail is actually holding something really important together?
That's a good point. It brings up another thing from the article, the idea of questioning symbols. The points in the film aren't like inherently bad, right? It's being so rigid about them, mistaking the symbol for the thing itself. That's what causes all the problems.
Right? We get so attached to labels and categories and ways of doing things that we forget to even look beyond them. It can be really limiting.
Yeah, for sure. And in a world that's constantly trying to like put us in boxes and define us, the point feels like more relevant than ever. Think about all the algorithms we see online, the news feeds that like just reinforce what we already believe.
The pressure to fit in.
It's like we're living in a digital version of the land of points sometimes.
Yeah. And that's why the film's message about thinking critically is so important.
Yeah.
We have to be able to like step back and question what we're being told and decide what we believe.
It takes courage though, right? To like go against the grain and embrace being different. It can feel pretty lonely.
Oh, it definitely can. But it's also really liberating. And the film reminds us that we don't have to do it alone. Remember all the different characters that Oblio meets in the Pointless Forest?
Yeah.
They represent like all the diversity of thought out there, all the different ways of seeing the world.
Yeah, and sometimes it's those unexpected connections, like with people who are different from us that help us to see our own points more clearly, like Oblio and the Rockman. Totally different, but they find common ground.
Exactly. And that's a big part of what makes this film so great. It's not just about criticizing conformity. It's about celebrating individuality and how beautiful and powerful being different can be. It reminds us that even in a world that's obsessed with points and right answers, there's always room for the unconventional, the unexpected, those like perfectly pointless moments that make life worth living.
So what do you say we leave our listeners with a little challenge?
I'm all for it.
Okay, so what if we encourage them to check out The Point in all its different forms? Watch the film, listen to the album, see what speaks to them,
I like it.
and maybe even take a walk through their own pointless forest. Metaphorically speaking, of course. What assumptions could they challenge? What points could they maybe let go of? And what unique perspective do they bring to the world? That's just waiting to be shared.
That's a perfect way to wrap things up. You don't need a point to have a point. Embrace your individuality, think critically, and keep questioning the world around you. You just might change it for the better.